Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Brad Davidson Show. Today I'm super excited. I'm being joined by Sarah Goudie from thehealthygutgoddess.com, and she is also the nutrition guru out at the Maretta Hot Springs. So I'm super excited to jump in and explore this world of nutrition with Sarah. So Sarah, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Brad. Thanks for inviting me. I'm stoked.
Yeah, super excited to chat with you. One, just from a personal standpoint, to dive a little deeper. Every time we get in conversations around nutrition and food, I just am fascinated by what you think, your processes, and just your views around nutrition. They're really good, I think. So I'm excited to share them. I want to start off with having you just give everyone a little idea of your background and what it is you actually do.
Yes. So my background came, strangely, from opening a juice bar in a small mountain town in Colorado. And that is really what started me down the path of trying to understand what our body needs as individuals. And that's when I really realized that everybody is so different and that one size doesn't fit all sometimes with nutrition and guidance there. And so that's kind of where I started becoming interested. But what was most influential is I was going through my own gut and hormone kind of mess, really. And I knew I needed to make some changes, but I didn't know what to do because I was doing all the right things and feeling miserable. And so I actually hired somebody to take a look at my labs and do a GI map and Dutch test and all these things to see what was up. And we found all kinds of things that I needed to take care of. And after that, I thought, man, I want to do this for other people. And so instead of just dabbling in it, I went back to school, got my FDN certification, and really started understanding the true bio-individuality of people, and really as well understanding a shame-free approach, because to make a lot of changes in life is hard. It's overwhelming, and the word wellness itself can seem like a hard mark to hit. And so in my own process of healing, I found it really important to become more approachable in my views of nutrition.
I love that. Gone through your whole website a few times, and one of my favorite things, and you just touched on it, was how you've brought shame into the picture with nutrition. Because my God, it is rampant. There's so much shame around nutrition and how people eat, and it's like there's no education around it for people. But everyone is left to feel like, oh, it's all your fault. You don't know what you're doing. I dig a little deeper into that for me, because that to me is such a huge piece that is missed so much in this world.
Yeah, it comes from everywhere too. Back when I was a kid, we could say that it was because of the magazines that I was looking at or whatever, but sometimes it's even just the miseducation that our parents have had, our friends, etc. But what we see so much of is you should do this, you should do that, you have to eat this, you have to eat that. And it's overwhelming. And really, what works for one person doesn't always work for another person. And what's crazy with the shame aspect of it is, even if somebody does all the work and they have gotten to where they want to be, whether it's weight loss or hormone regulation or whatever, gut health, when they shine with their truth of what they've done for themselves, sometimes they get beat down. And so there's this idea of well, I've come all this way, but I can't share my truth because somebody is going to come at me. And that's what's so sad about this shame idea. And also, I think too, for everybody, small steps are what are sustainable. And I think there's this idea that everybody has to do everything perfectly. And if they're not, then they're failing. And I think one step every day is huge. And so that's really what I'm about, is the shame's gotta kick the curb. It's not worth it.
I love that. And I love how you talk about. Here's one of the things I love about you is that so much of what you say when we have conversations are all the stuff that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite. I mean, when I got introduced to you, you were kind of the person behind the nutrition at Maretta Hot Springs. I had no idea who you were. I started looking through your bio and everything, and I saw the FDN. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have the same background. And what I love is that you're sitting here talking, and people that watch this podcast, you're saying all the same things that I say, like in regards to the individuality, like such a big, important thing, like what works for one person doesn't work for another. But everyone gets this idea of, oh, I found the answer. This worked for me. It starts pushing on everyone else. It drives me nuts. I recently had a guy, you'll get a kick out of this. He's 100 days into a program with me, and it's very individualized to him and his needs, and he is killing it. Like his transformation and change just by following the nutrition plan, the training, everything that we have him doing, it's phenomenal. Like it was funny. He goes, I feel super weird, but I want to send you a before and after picture of just my first 100 days. And it was amazing. And he goes to where he heard me speak was this meeting with all these other colleagues of his. And this whole new vegan documentary came out about how vegan's the answer. And I just did a recent podcast on this. And all of a sudden, they're all coming down on him and shaming him because he's not vegan and he's not following the science and he's not doing what's healthy. And I'm like, holy shit. Let's see your guys' change in the last 100 days. Don't tell my guy that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing because he's not doing a vegan when he's drastically changed in all categories, labs, looks, energy, everything, and you guys still look the same. It's this idea of it works for me, or I think I found what I believe is truth. Everyone has to follow it. The greatest coaches out there, I've never met one that said, oh, I found the answer for everyone.
Right. There can't be an answer for everyone. And this is why. And this is why I went back to school. I'm working on my PhD in health psychology because I am seeing that it's so much more than just what's happening on the outside of us, right? And so when we talk about bio-individuality, that includes our DNA, that includes the neighborhood we grew up in, the culture we grew up in, the stories our parents told us, the stories our friends told us, our traumas, big traumas, little traumas. And then we've got things like food sensitivities and our hormones and gut dysregulation. All of those things make people so individual that the trend of like, this is what I eat in a day. Everybody should eat this. Or this is my diet. This is right for everybody. Just it can't fit because we are all so different. And that is key in finding what works for individuals for sustainability, for their like lifespan, their health span. It has to be individualized.
I love that. How much does psychology play into all this? It's massive, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's so massive. I really realized that when I was working with individual clients and we started to narrow in on some nutrition stuff. And the minute there is any type of restriction, every single person kind of gets a little like, I don't know, twitchy.
Twitchy.
I get it. I totally get it. And once I saw that, I started digging in a little bit and asking more questions. And that's when I started seeing a huge link in what our body is doing metabolically and what that also does to our mind. So, if we're not sleeping well, our emotions get messed up, our blood sugar is messed up, our blood pressure is messed up, all these things, and that will affect our mood as well. And so really understanding how the body works together, the mind-body connection is so imperative in all of this discourse about health, for sure.
So what you're saying is it's not just as simple as go work out really hard as much as possible and eat clean and you win?
No, I wish it was that
right?
simple. I do. And I think that's where you and I connect so well because, I know your background and your story, and I was the same in a very different way, but like just go, 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 doing all the right things, working out excessively and not really giving myself a lot of time to recover. So, what I'm seeing in the sweet spot as I'm doing a lot of research is that I do believe in, I've been calling it vitality stacking. So, I believe that we need to be moving mindfully throughout our day. That if we have a desk job, we've got to get up and move. We need to actively move every day. So, that's important. The food we put into our body is important. Our mindfulness, getting rid of the things in our life that we don't need and filling in more that fills us as a person, all of those things connect to a better night's sleep. And so to me, real vitality comes when we're giving our body that time to recuperate, rejuvenate, get out all of the toxins that run through our body throughout the day, and really the brain plaque, all the stuff, really give our body an opportunity to start fresh the next morning. It's huge.
I love that. You just brought up something, and this is a thing that I really struggle with, but you just brought it up as part of your vitality stacking. It is really hard for me to find time in my day to do those things that refill me and that I love, that I enjoy, that give back to me. And there's times where psychologically, I even have guilt around it. Like, oh, I don't have the time to go sit in my car and meditate for 15 minutes, or I don't have the time to go do this thing that I think is fun. Do you see a lot of that? Because I see a lot of my clients struggling with that. There's almost like this selfish guilt around that specific thing. And you're saying, hey, this is a very important vitality stack if you want to live at an optimal level.
It is a very important part of the vitality stack. And the reason why I know that is because, like, all of these things are great standing alone, like fitness by itself is great standing alone. But when it's sandwiched with all the other things, it becomes so much more powerful. And that mindfulness portion, even if it's like 5 minutes a day, is crucial. But you're right. We are told to go, 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 do, hustle culture, boss babe, all that stuff. And we're almost guilted into doing those things instead of slowing down. And what I see a lot of is I've had some clients who have been really leaning into infrared saunas, which I love. Like, do the infrared sauna, love it. Do the red light, but at the same time, they'll be working or taking calls or something else that's not slowing down. And so I've had to encourage them, like, if you're sitting in that infrared sauna, turn everything off. Just be there. Take that time for yourself. And so it is hard though. Like, in the perfect world, man, I would take like 2 hours every morning and do my own damn thing. Like, that is what I would do every morning, right? And I can't. And so I fit it in wherever I can, and I don't shame myself if I'm only able to do 2 minutes. I think we're in this mindset of like, it's all or nothing. So if I can't do it for 15 minutes, I won't do it. And for me, I really feel like these small sustainable steps are those little bits of time, the 2 minutes, I added some greens to my lunch today, not, doing it perfect every single time. That's kind of how I feel like it's got to work for the really busy people.
Yeah. I see a lot on morning routines. If you want to be a successful person, you have to have this morning routine. And I see all these morning routines, and I'm like, who in the hell has time to do that? I mean, I'm out of bed at 5 a.m, seeing clients starting at 5:30 or 6 a.m. There's no way in hell I'm getting about 4:30 or 3:30 to do this full morning routine. So I like little strategies of like, be proud and be happy about the 2 minutes here, the 2 minutes there. That to me is super empowering. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Stress affects all aspects of our health. So if we are shoulding ourselves or musting ourselves or shaming ourselves into a point where we're just beating ourselves up all day because we're not doing all the things that we're supposed to do, then that is actually taking away all the positive that we are doing. Stress affects it all. So, you know this, like if we're in a super high state of stress when we go to the gym and then we do this intense, like super cardio workout, and then we're too stressed to get some good food in our body, so we don't eat at all. We down a bunch of coffee, and then we go to work and we do all the things, and then we get home and we're ticked off at ourselves because we haven't done anything to take care of ourselves. We're ticked off at our kids, our spouse, our friends, whatever. Like that stress leads into when we're trying to go to sleep, right? And then we can't go to sleep because we're like way up here still. And that to me is the biggest thing. And the thing I realize the most is because if somebody gives me a plan, I can do it. Like you give me a fitness plan, I'm in. You give me a diet, I can do it. Whatever. But I will stress myself out in order to do it just right to the point where it's not helping me anymore.
Yeah,
And that
so I'm a lot like you. I've had to like stop. I don't track macros. I took my Whoop band off. I used to try to track all these parameters that people tell me, oh, you gotta track all these things to be healthy. And I would get so stressed out tracking all those parameters. I'd get my blood work done every 60 days, tracking everything. And I finally hit a point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so stressed out trying to track everything and make adjustments to everything. I finally just trashed it all. And I've never been happier. I really believe, I was going to ask you about this anyway, so I'm glad you brought up the whole stress thing. I am finding that to be the biggest enemy to the metabolism. And no one in general population wants to believe that. Everyone wants the hard thing to do, the extreme thing to do. Do you agree with it? Or do you think the answer is in the extreme things to do? Like the 75 hard, the vegan diet, the cold plunge every day. Like, is the answer in the extremes?
the answer is not in the extremes. In fact, the extremes are putting us in this constant state of cortisol dysregulation. And really, I mean, let's think about that. Like, you know all the good things about cortisol. If we are in that fight or flight state constantly, it's not doing anything good for us. In fact, I love that the counter to fight or flight is rest and digest. And the minute I hear rest and digest, I want to sigh in relief and think, wow, rest and digest. That's where we're able to make babies. That's where we're able to connect with people. That's where we're able to think and act in a state of ease instead of dis-ease. So to me, all the hard things is actually doing more negative for our body. And I'm not saying not to try the things. Like I've cold plunged before, but I don't do it every day. I just don't. I feel because of where my cortisol is and my age and where I am in life, it tanks me. It takes all of my cortisol for the whole day, and then I'm done. I have nothing else to give. And the same thing with just shoulding myself all day of these are all the things I have to do. It tanks me. So yeah, I'm a fan of trying things, but I'm not about pushing hard. I've done it for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not into the hustle culture.
It's funny because I'm just going to be honest. I can be swayed into that by what I'm reading, who I'm listening to. But the times that I am most productive, the best version of me are the times I'm not in that hyper realm of hustle, 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 grind, 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 produce, outwork. It's always when I'm in a state, you let me take a weekend off and just be on vacation, which is very hard for me to do. I did it actually a couple weeks ago, and it's incredible the solutions I came up with, the ideas I came up with, the strategies I came up with. I'm like, oh, I just was way more productive chilling out and relaxing than I've ever been in the grind and hustle mode. And I wish people would grasp and understand that if they can hit to that rest and digest, the brain works better. Everything's more optimal. I mean, it was phenomenal. The ideas that came to me and everything I was stressing out over, trying to solve and hustle through. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier this way. But again, there was a little bit of guilt. They're like, oh, you lazy sucker. You just took 2 days off and didn't do anything. You lounged around, you walked a bunch.
Totally.
It was rough. So let me ask you this. I know you've done a lot with hormones.
Mhm.
That hustle, that grind, those extremes, what do those do to our hormones from your experience?
So, what I've seen them do with most people is that our body will rise to the occasion for a certain amount of time. It'll do what it needs to do. And then at some point it says, had enough. So cortisol says, I can't do this anymore. And it just stops producing what's needed. And when that happens, all the hormones follow suit. So that is when testosterone lowers. That's when estrogen gets wacky. That's when progesterone tanks. And when all of those things happen, we see it in exhaustion, we see it in motivation, brain fog, all of that stuff, anxiety, tons of anxiety. But what's so interesting is that we all in society fill those little alarm signs with things to make it better in that immediate moment. So that's when caffeine, that's when alcohol, that's when whatever go to over the counter remedy that we have, we dip into. And so we silence those alarms, but the cortisol in the body and the hormones are still saying, I need help. And if we silence those alarms for too long, eventually they get louder and they get a little bit angrier. And at some point, we just have to pay more attention. And that's usually why there's this like age that everybody says that we hit kind of a wall. And it's not because it happened all of a sudden, it's because it's been happening. And we've been telling it to shut up, basically. And now it's screaming, it's throwing a tantrum, and we're forced to pay attention. And can we correct that? Yeah, we can correct it, but it takes work and it's not overnight and it's not just one pill. The lifestyle portion is so important. I've seen it time and time again. I worked with a lot of first responders and they'll do all the supplements, they'll do all that. But as soon as we start trying to work on sleep, on stress regulation, things like that, if they can't change their sleep patterns, it becomes much more difficult to really get the cortisol and the hormones feeling better again.
I couldn't agree with you more. From what I've studied and from personal experience, the best way I ever learned it that I just has always stuck with me is how stress works. Is you go through a state of stressed and wired, and if you keep ignoring, you will end up in a state of stressed and exhausted, and then you get nothing done. You cannot even function as a human being. And at that
Yep.
point, once you've hit that point, it takes a long time to get back to a normal, high performing state. Let's talk a little bit about Marietta Hot Springs.
Yeah.
So, and your role there. And this is kind of my first introduction on the podcast about Maretta Hot Springs. So Maretta Hot Springs is this incredible resort that was just opened out in Marietta, California. I was part of the gym out there, Dynamis Fitness, bringing that to play. I'd love for you to kind of talk, one, about the ethos that we call it of Marietta Hot Springs, because it is phenomenal. And then specifically your role within the ethos.
Yeah, awesome. So, what I love about Marietta Hot Springs Resort is that we're not just talking about hotel rooms and spa packages. We are centered in the mineral geothermal waters that are coming straight from the earth. So, this is like super powerful, amazing water that does so much on its own. But then on top of that, we've really prepared an ethos that leans into nutrition, sleep, dynamic activity. So having Dynamis there is a huge part of that. And then also revitalization. And all of those stand around the waters as a really true vitality, like benefit to the body. And so that's why when I say vitality stacking, I think of it as like my perfect day at Marietta, and I've done this numerous times. It's incredible. Is I go to one of your strength classes. I love it. Like I start my day with that, and then I soak right afterwards. I get into some warm sometimes really hot water, and I stretch. So instead of just doing like an after workout stretch, I do it in the water. So my muscles are already more pliable and ready to relax. And then I make sure I have an amazing, nutritious breakfast. And I then walk around the property and really slow down my thoughts. There's so many places to find gratitude there. So I spend some time in gratitude and really fill my day with all of the things that I love. And so that's like my perfect day. And my specific job there is we've got 6 different venues on site with food and drinks. And we have an amazing chef that can take an idea that I have and turn it into a real thing. And my ideas are just based on macros that support each other and foods that you can kind of build your own style. So if you want added carbohydrates, you can do that. If you want extra protein, you can do that. Because I know there's a lot of us out there that want more protein and less carbs, or want more carbs because they're building up for something. And so being able to kind of like build that, but using really mindful connections with community farms and making sure that this is amazing food and seasonal so that we're offering the very, very best. That is a huge important portion. And then the other thing that I'm super excited about with the nutrition aspect at Maretta Hot Springs Resort is that we are really leaning into making sure that everybody is comfortable there. So again, that word wellness can seem hard to reach. And even like, I don't even like using the word diet. So when people come to the resort, we want them to be able to eat something no matter where they are on the spectrum of food needs. So if somebody wants a burger and fries and a beer, they can get that. It's going to be the best and sustainably sourced, ethical burger they can get with French fries that are fried in avocado oil. So it's like top notch. But if you're a vegan, you can also find something there to eat. And we really, really lean into the zero proof, non-alcohol options for folks, because that is an important part of our ethos, is making sure that everybody feels seen. And that's an area that a lot of people don't feel seen in. So that's robust for us.
I love that. When you guys sat me down and showed me the menu, I won't lie, I was a little nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But my favorite part was that the idea of, hey, we recognize you all as individuals. And we recognize that what works for one person may not work for the other, and works for that person may not work for this person. And that's all been dialed in. So that takes away that shame, or that we think this is the best way to do it. All that's not there. It's like, no, we've taken care of all the styles and the ways people like to eat, so that anyone can come and get exactly what they need with no judgment, and it's there for them. I thought that to me was like the thing that just jumped out as the most beautiful thing that I saw when the menus came out. I was like, oh my, I never voiced that, but that was my favorite part, was that, hey, there's no judgment here. We don't think that we know more than, like, here's the only way to do it, here's the best way to do it, which is so common. It's like, nah. If you're vegan, we respect that, because we know that works for some people. If you're more of a carnivore type, we have stuff you can do in that. We respect that. If you're more of a mixed type, you like to have carbohydrates, there's zero judgment. It's whatever's going to work best for you, you can make work there. And also, you know what? If you're just out here and enjoying some time and you want to have a cheat meal, you got those options too. But like you said, the burger and fries, I will tell you, I had after our grand opening of Dynamis. It's just a way to kind of chill out and recharge. It was phenomenal.
Yes.
So I was very stoked on that. Very stoked on that. Man, you did a great job explaining what Maretta Hot Springs is all about. You know how I've been explaining it to people is a vitality reset. Like, go out for a weekend. It's like a pure vitality reset. It's going to completely recharge you in all arenas. And then obviously working out there is phenomenal, because it's all the things you need on a daily basis to be able to take those quick 5-minute recharges. You can do a 15, 20 minute. I did a 20-minute kind of contrast therapy in the waters the other day. It's just a 20 minutes. Yep. I was a little stressed out. I just needed a break. It wasn't a training day. I call it a protect the asset modality. I was just taking time to take care of myself, and it's great out there. So the whole ethos of that place is phenomenal because it takes people like us that preach this stuff, and you just put somebody in the middle of it, and boom, it's all there for them. The strategies on how to
Yes.
sleep better, the mindfulness stuff, the regeneration stuff, the dynamic activity stuff, the nutrition stuff. It's just right there, and people can step into it and learn how to do that from an experiential standpoint versus someone just saying, here's what you need to do. It's like, no, here's how you do it. Go experience it, and now take that home with you and keep moving in that direction.
Yeah. Well, and that's the key. And this is something that really matters to me. And we're still fleshing all this out and creating it. But, to come to Marietta Hot Springs Resort and experience all that is key. And we don't have mineral waters, in our backyard everywhere. So we have to go somewhere to experience that. However, there's a portion, and you just said it, taking some of that home with you is important. And so the way people feel when they soak, when they eat a nutritious meal, when they're able to down regulate and they move into ease, I want that to be shocking enough to make people say, that felt different. How can I put that into my daily life? And I think that happens a lot because we are going, going, going. We are creatures of doing more and all of that. And when you come to Marietta Hot Springs Resort, you have to slow down. You just do. And it's so in contrast to when you leave and go back to life. And my goal is to help educate people on how they can do that at home too.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Well, hey, if you want to come out and see us at Marietta Hot Springs, experience what you're talking about, check it out. It's phenomenal. I couldn't recommend a better place for that experience of that recharge, and just all these different dynamics that go into play to be a truly healthy, well, high-performing individual. You can come out and just experience it. It's phenomenal. Sarah, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to jump on this with us, to share your wisdom, your thoughts. It's beautiful. I love it. Keep doing what you do, all right?
Thank you, Brad. I
Yeah.
appreciate you and everything you do for us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good seeing you today.
Thanks. See you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye.